All right, everybody, welcome back to another Lions Daily episode. It's a Friday, and we're diving into something that we haven't talked about too much. We haven't actually done anything on this since I've talked about just simply going through the first impressions of the Lions UDFA signing. So today we're going to begin the process of revisiting the UDFA additions the Lions made this offseason. And I want to break this into two parts because for time reasons, I assume if I make this all in one, it's just going to be too much. So let's not do that. Let's make this a two-parter. If y'all enjoy the first part, we'll do a second part. If not, maybe we don't do a second part. I don't know. But I want to talk about all the UDFA signings and kind of lay out a plan of how the player could maybe make it into the roster. That's what we're going to do. We're going to lay out the plan, and I want to talk about the likelihood of it happening. Now, the problem with this is, and I'm going to be honest right away. Let me move my mic down a little bit. The problem I'm having with this, let me make sure I sound good. Do we sound good? If we sound good, let me know. It's going to be difficult for any UDFA to actually make the team this year. Like truly, it's hard for me to say like, oh, this guy's got a real path. I don't have one that stands out as any of these honestly being that likely. I think it's gonna be very difficult this season. I think at a few of these positions we're incredibly deep this year. The player that I really like, and I feel like he's made a really good impression so far, at least in terms of anything we've been able to see. We haven't gotten much, but the highlights Lions have put together, he's shown up a couple of times. And he's in the positional group that I think is the deepest that has been under Brad Holmes. So I'm not really sure if any of these dudes can legitimately make the roster this year, but I want to talk about how it can happen. All right, so we're just going to do the first four today, and then if we do a part two, we'll wrap up the rest of the UDFA additions the Lions have made. And then, of course, down the road, we could end up having other free agent signings as well as we get closer to the season beginning and into the preseason. So just more competition is likely to be added to this mix. But let's dive right into it with a player that has popped up a ton. This guy has shown up a ton so far, at least in terms of like the highlight clips they've given us. So we've seen him. We've seen him. Like some of these guys, we really haven't seen anything. This player we have seen a little bit. And we're going to go to UMass. We're going to go to the receiver, Jacobe Keaney James. I think I'm saying his name right. I could be saying that wrong, which would be a problem. I don't think I'm saying it wrong. Jacobe Keaney James, who's coming off really a fantastic season with UMass. Production-wise, 51 receptions, 870 yards, 6 touchdowns this past year. He's popped up a few times as they've given us highlights so far this offseason. Jacobe Keaney James, let's just talk about the path real quick before we even start talking about the player. The path to me is this, and I guess this does include the player a little bit as well. The path for me is this. Looking at his skill set, how could he kind of find his way to wiggle in? Because right now, I think the receiving position, the receiving group is the strongest that it's been since Brad Holmes has been here in terms of just straight depth. It's super deep this year. We have about 6 guys. I don't want to call them locks, but I think most years you'd be like, yeah, that's probably a lock to make the team. And you have 6 of those. I truly believe you have 6 of those guys that on most given years you'd feel pretty comfortable are going to make the team. 2 of them because they're draft picks, Isaac Tesla, Dominic Lovett. Now, Lovett being that he was so late in the draft, he's the guy that could have a path to not making the roster. Like, that's on the table. But Tesla's going to make the team. You assume Lovett will make the team. And then you have Khalif Raymond, who I know some people brought it up. He ended up having to take that pay cut. But Khalif still means so much to this team. He's super reliable. I don't really, like most years, I wouldn't see even a consideration of this guy not making the team. This year I get it, but it's just purely based on numbers. Like if Lovett's fantastic during training camp and in the preseason, maybe there's a path where like we're keeping 5. And then it's like, okay, maybe he is the odd man out. And then outside of that, you actually have legitimate locks. Jameson, Tim Patrick. I don't think Tim Patrick's getting cut. I think he's valuable and he's unique on this team, so I don't think he's going anywhere. And then, of course, St. Brown. So it's just loaded this season. And then on top of that, the depth competition is kind of nuts. Like, you have legitimate names. They brought in Malik Taylor this offseason as one of their tryout players. He's a veteran in the NFL. They brought in Malik Taylor. You have Ronnie Bell now joining. I'm a big fan of Ronnie Bell. Not to say, like, I think he's going to make the team or anything, but I do like Ronnie Bell's skill set. And then you have, so when you start to get to these numbers, it's like, man, there's a lot of dudes here. I'm at the point right now, I think the spot that this player makes the team, and I'm going to run some plays here, but I think the way that he makes the team is this. He needs these 2 things to come together. He needs the mix of, number one, being productive, specifically when we think about preseason and training camp. He needs that first and foremost. Like the staple of making the team, I think, is a bottom of the roster type of player, someone that's truly on the bubble that would sneak his way in. And again, just by numbers alone, even if he is productive, he's probably still at best a practice squad player. the best path for him, number one, be productive. Now, we've seen guys be productive and not make it, specifically from the receiver position, so it's no guarantee. Tom Kennedy is always productive. Typically, he would make it. Now, not really, and I didn't even mention Tom Kennedy. Chase Cota, I remember his preseason. He wasn't overly productive, but when the ball was thrown his way, he was pretty darn good. And you're like, hey, Chase Cota, he didn't make the team. So we've had productive players not make the team just because they were productive in the preseason and training camp. But one thing is for sure, if you're in that spot and you're not productive or you're just dropping passes and you already have a mountain to climb to make the team, you're not going to make the team. So that's first and foremost, right? Whether that's Rashad Perriman, like we've seen this before. You have to do something. So we've already seen that those guys won't make the team. So to start things off, be productive. But the thing that he needs to connect with being productive is what you will see when you see some of these plays. He has to find a way to also bring that explosive nature to the field. And I think this could show up in a couple of different ways. Speaking of special teams, it could show up as a returner. I think based on his skill set, we'll talk about, I don't think he's overly dynamic with the ball in his hands. He doesn't have excellent acceleration. I mean, it's a little bit, it's on the plus side, but he's not a home run hitter, you would think, by his long speed. I don't think he's very shifty with the ball in his hands. So that limits it a little bit, but his transition ability is great. He gets the ball and he's off. He's off to the races quickly. So the quickness at which he transitions and likely what his skill set will be for the Lions is level 1, level 2 routes is probably where he's going to feast. Now, he has shown a lot of double move capability, the ability to take the top off because of his double move success in college. So he has the capability to bring that, and we've seen it with a lot of the sluggo routes that we've seen in college. To me, he's going to have to tie in that production of being a guy that, to me, because of where he could be living on in the preseason, which is level 1, level 2 routes, he could be a guy that has a game where he's got 4 receptions. And that would help him stand out, potentially. That could really help him stand out. Reliable hands would help him stand out. He had 4 drops this past year. Sometimes I didn't think his technique was pretty, but he has the body control to save passes, climb the ladder, scoop things off the ground. I just wonder about his contested success. Need to see a little bit of that probably because he's probably going to have a few of those routes where they're contested. But if he can tie that production as well as maybe 1 or 2 monster plays. And maybe this is in training camp, but give me some plays where he is dynamic, he is out with the football, he's taking off, and he's just making something explosive happen. Maybe it's a deep shot over the top. He has to tie those two things together to me in some way to make this work. We've seen explosive guys not make the team that aren't productive. Khalil Pimpleton, right? This guy was dynamic, but he wasn't catching the football consistently. So those two things have to merge together. And the reason I think that he has a chance to do that is the skill set and the path for him actually catching the football and being productive does scream like, okay, it could work. There's a path for this to work. Like already we've seen the highlights, so we know that he's at least had a few plays so far to this point to at least get some attention. I talked about the body control as a pass catcher, only 4 drops this past season, which, again, I do wonder a little bit about the technique. I wonder about contested situations, so we'll have to see how that plays out. He has played with some physicality, which we've noticed. The big thing for me is his footwork. He's played inside and outside. I think it'll translate to the next level. He's going to have slot and wide flexibility. He has the footwork to really maintain speed through breaks, which opens up a lot of potential to continue to create separation. He's been crafty off the line of scrimmage, which has allowed him to beat press release. Now, he's been productive against Georgia, Missouri, both this past season. 2 teams that this past year, 2 of the better teams. 2 teams that he was productive against. We've seen him compete against and have monster games against some of the best competition, make crazy plays. And it's a craftiness off the release that he has also brought. Double move threats. He can run routes pretty well. He can really show some bend and some lean to his routes, which allows him to run like speed out routes, in breakers, dig routes. He's been able to open up a little bit of variety in what you can actually ask him to do. So he's going to have that in his back pocket of like, okay, he can separate enough, it seems like, especially underneath. He may have the footwork to separate. He's going to have some of the agility there, you would think, the ability to maintain speed. So he should be able to eat up receptions and targets. He also, to me, one of my favorite things about Jacobe Keaney James that I've seen so far is his feel. I think a big part of, again, the competition that he's directly going to be aligned with, Khalif Raymond, Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell, to me, is a very smart player. Khalif Raymond, of course, has brought this as well, reliability as well. He's got a little more size, but it's been that ability to have great feel in zone coverage, get up the field, knife up the field, just find what's there, find what's available. That awareness is going to have to show up like this, right, to hit those little spot routes or the snag routes, to be able to feel zone coverage, slow his pace down on the route, save things. That kind of capability can compete well with who he's going to be competing with for the final of the roster spot, even if there is that availability open. But again, to me, he's got to show some of the dynamic ability. He's got to have some home run kind of hitting type of plays, training camp / preseason to give himself a chance. I think that's where it's going to have to come from because that transition ability could open it up. Say he breaks a couple of screens for big plays. Maybe he gets a shot as a punt returner, and he can just find a seam, transition quick, and get upfield. And it's not a lot of dancing, but it's just downhill. Oh, there was a 20-yard return. Remember Khalil Dorsey? Khalil Dorsey has shown us that in the past, and it's always been something in his back pocket that it's like, he's kind of dynamic with the ball. I always think that's been a little bit of just a boost for him. It's like, well, he's actually not a bad kick returner. So if he can pull that together, he may have a chance here. I do wonder a little bit about overall if that's going to translate the separation that we saw in college into the NFL, if he's going to be able to get off a jam at the line of scrimmage, the way the Lions play with physicality. Is he going to be able to live through that? Can he win through those contest situations? I think it's going to be a great challenge for him. It's just, again, that the receiver position is as deep as I've seen it potentially. So I think he's not going to make the roster, but I don't want to count the dude out. That's the path of it happening, because I don't really see a path where he could. Here's how I would say. I don't see a path where it's like, okay, we walk through training camp for preseason and we're like, he outperformed Tim Patrick. He's getting the nod. Like, that to me is not going to happen. I don't think, it's not to say he can't outperform him. He absolutely could. Tim Patrick just won't be getting the snaps for that. The Lions feel they know what he is. I don't think that can happen, right? So I don't see him upending that guy at a spot. He's going to have to upend Dominic Lovett. And I think Lovett's going to make the team, right? But he would have to, like, Lovett drop some passes. And it's like, okay, that was the concern, away from his body, away from his frame. Is he reliable? He's dropped 3 passes in the preseason. You're like, wait a minute. That's not great, right? That's not great. He can separate like crazy, but he's got to catch the football. The timing's not there. You have to upend a guy like that. You obviously have to pass to Ronnie Bell, who I would start it off with. I think him and Ronnie Bell are immediately, stylistically, are neck and neck, right? Like, style, the way that they play. They both, I think, resemble a lot of things, similar, both inside, outside. Maybe they bring some returning upside. Both are smart players. They're not overly dynamic. They don't play the game really fast. They have a great feel. He has a great feel for the sideline. Really nice body control. Some hands that have been relatively reliable, especially when it's not maybe through contact. He, to me, has to start there first. And then it's about maybe he surprises someone on the back end. So, again, I don't think there's a great path for a lot of these guys, but his path is that. Now, let's go to the next player. Now, this is one that he was the standout player to me when we initially heard the announcements of who the Lions' UDFA signings were, and then we found out that this was actually a player that was going to come in and try out, and then ultimately after the trial, he did make the team. He actually got signed, so it worked out. Like, I liked him a lot, then I was like, oh, man, he's coming in for a tryout. Okay, I thought that he was already signed, and then he did well enough. I was like, okay, we actually are going to sign him, so it's perfectly fine. That means I still like the guy. I still like him a lot, and he positionally has maybe a little bit of a stronger path to making the team, though it's not great, maybe a stronger path. The problem is here, numbers. Numbers are loaded at this spot. PFF actually just put out their D-line rankings. I think the Lions came in at 6, which is nice. But the numbers at the spot, as well as you have to show some flexibility. And that's where I start to wonder a little bit. I don't know how much flexibility he's actually going to be able to bring. His skill set would say, oh, there's flexibility here. Move up and down the line of scrimmage, his body type, his athleticism. But in terms of where it can actually work, I don't know how much he's going to be able to tap into in terms of real flexibility at the next level. So that's my big concern. But this is going to be defensive end Keith Cooper Jr. And as y'all know, if you know, you know. I'm a big Keith Cooper Jr. guy out of Houston, transfer from Tulane. I like watching Keith Cooper play a lot. Like, he was the standout for a reason for me when we first did the first impressions of a lot of the DN signings, because he pops. He pops when you watch him. The athleticism shows up a ton. It's just, I wonder if there's actually true flexibility here to work up and down the line of scrimmage. So let's talk about Keith Cooper Jr., because as I'll let this run a little bit, the big thing that you'll notice is athletically, again, that's there, right? He can get off the ball. There's plus quickness off the line of scrimmage. Maybe it's closer to average, but it's enough off the line. It'll be number 5, as you're saying. So he's got enough of that to get off the ball. Now, it shows up the closer to the center that he is, so you want to think that, okay, pass downs, could he kick inside, work on guards, give them a little bit of problem off the ball? Potentially, he could have some of that. His length shows up a little bit here. The big thing for me is the top of the rush. He's got fast hands. He's got real agility at the top of the rush. He sidesteps quickly. He crosses face. He shows some slither. You see some jolt just by the get off alone there. When he has those good entry points that can create a little bit of knockback at the point of attack, that can give you a little bit of juice. You get him out in space, he can run. He can deal with quarterbacks out in space. He can run laterally. Like, he has real athleticism, like playing behind the line of scrimmage just like this. But then you see the flip side, and you're like, all right, now he's getting pushed off the ball. Now he's playing 6 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. Can't sit down and deal with a double team. Does he have the base to deal with a double team? You see the slither and you see the slipperiness, but can he deal with the run game at the next level? You'll see some shedding ability. You'll see it with his hand usage. You'll see his ability to shed in college. That's going to have to translate. That's going to be the big thing for me. The stacking ability to shed, because I don't think he's going to be able to live by sitting down and holding his lane. he's going to have to be able to get off blocks, and he's going to have to bring that consistency in the NFL of how fast and how twitchy he can be to get hands on and move off, right? Like how fast can he get to those spots? How well can he actually reduce his not airspace, but how fast can he reduce himself to getting to a spot where it's hard to connect with him in the NFL? Because to me, he could be a little bit overwhelmed in the NFL. So I think that's going to be what has to show up is just shed ability immediately, because you can see that he can roll. I love the effort that he plays with. And over the past 2 seasons, he has been a big-time run defender. It's the key for him has been he's been able to live behind the line of scrimmage. If you look at him statistically, he had 29 pressures this past year in 350 pass rush snaps. That's not outstanding, especially at the college level. So it's not outstanding. He doesn't show great bend. I don't think he shows always that second-level juice at the top of the rush to really turn the arc. So now you wonder, it's like, well, if I play him really wide, does he actually have enough to be that impactful there? We may have to kick him inside. So that's where the slither could add some value. You'll have to kind of lean into that. But then it's like, okay, but then on early downs, where do we put him? Can we put him at defense end? Does it work? Does he give me enough juice outside? So he's been a fine pass rusher. I think he's going to be more of an effort piece, maybe a stunt usage player where you can tap into the agility for him. But as a run defender, he had 25 stops this past season on 34 tackles. 25 were listed as stops, which means that he is creating negatives constantly against the run. That's the type of thing that will have to translate, is be a really good run defender, be a guy that's dynamic in the backfield. We've had these guys before. They haven't always worked out. I think Demetrius Taylor comes to mind. He was an interior player, but he could get into the backfield. He could live in the backfield. He could be disruptive. You go way back, Benito Jones, much different body type, nose tackle. He could live in the backfield. Now, at that time, he was actually a key part of our team because, I mean, man, we didn't have anybody, but we're in a different spot now. He also is going to be competing with guys that somewhat have similar paths to where he is now. Like, it's not like his main competition is going to be first round, second round picks, big money. Like, it's not that. You know, the straight competition in front of him feels like Isaac Ukwu, Mitchell Agude, guys that in a couple of games this past year, where it's like 2 games for Isaac Ukwu. You know, Agude had some kind of spot looks. Neither guy looks overly incredible as a rusher, but you're like, okay, there's some skill set here. Like, Ukwu looks like a physical piece that's like, okay, he can long arm a little bit. There's a little bit of effort that he can create here. He's not overpowering, but you could see the sustainability. And then you get to guys like, you know, Nate Lynn, where it's like, yeah, he showed a lot of rushing juice, but he couldn't really play the run last year either. We saw in the preseason, but it was such a small sample size. He only played 1 preseason game before being injured. So that's the straight competition. That's the immediate competition. He can pass those guys. Like, he can absolutely do it, especially if he can show legitimate flexibility. But that's when you then get into the next world of where things get tough. Because now, even if he passed those guys, it doesn't guarantee he's making the team. Even if he was in their mind beyond Mitchell Agude and beyond Isaac Ukwu and beyond Nate Lynn, that doesn't guarantee a spot. Because to me, then it's about the next step, which is, can you show more than Pat O'Connor? That's going to be tricky, right? Because the Lions had love for Pat O'Connor up and down the line of scrimmage. I don't really know where his home is, but he's done it. And on top of that, he already has a connection with our D-line coach. So it's about that piece. Maybe the Josh Pascals, who's on the final year of his contract. Like, that would be the next spot. Like, having Mekhi Wingo injured gives him a better chance early, I think, to come in, because he could potentially showcase some similarities in terms of, like, how he can play up and down the line. But I don't think he can live inside the tackles on early downs. So he's going to have to kind of be like a hybrid defense end that plays DN, kicks inside on pass downs, but he has to be able to live on the edge. Can he set the edge consistently? Does he have the body? Does he have the frame to live on the edge? That's a big question that I have. Does he have the base to do that? I don't really know that he has that. Is he explosive enough to live in that spot and be impactful enough? I don't know. Does he create any speed to power where, like, this fits what we're trying to do? I don't know that he has enough there. To me, that's where the next stage comes in. You know, the Raekwon Williams is a little bit different, but guys like Pat O'Connor, he's actually has a legitimate path because there are injuries, so that helps him a little bit coming in. And on top of that, the guys that he's competing with directly are going to be guys that were also undrafted free agents. He's got a chance there. Then if he passed them and he passed that first step, can he then jump over potentially guys like Pat O'Connor? That's going to be tough. But Pat O'Connor feels like he's maybe most in direct path, because while Pat O'Connor play nose, he's built kind of like a defensive end. So Pat O'Connor kind of plays everywhere. He might be kind of the next step for him. So again, it's going to be tricky, but I am a fan of Keith. I like the way that he plays in game, the fire that he plays with, the juice that he plays with is noticeable. We'll throw Keith Cooper in, as I think he has a better shot to make it than Keaney James, because Keaney James is in such a loaded spot. I would give the nod to Keith Cooper as having a better shot here, but I think Keaney James may translate a little bit better to the NFL. That's kind of my early sense. The next 2 that we have, and we're going to wrap it up with these 2, and I'm glad we did this as a part 1, because if this was everybody, this would not happen. First up, we're going to go to Luke Deal out of Auburn. What is the chance Luke Deal makes it? In terms of any position of a guy that's a free agent signing or UDFA signings that have a chance to make the team, this positional group, I think, has clearly the best shot. I think it's clearly the best shot because of what the rest of the room looks like, right? We just talked about a room that, okay, they have some UDFAs there. There's a potential to kind of crack your way into that spot. But the problem is there's so many numbers and there's so much flexibility up front. I mean, there's familiarity there. In terms of this spot, there's really not much of that. You have Sam Laporta and you have Brock Wright, two guys that I would assume are going to make it. Beyond that, I don't think there's any locks. There's not one. Shane Zylstra, Keaney Yeboah. And then you got your two UDFA signings. I don't think there's any locks there. The Lions, I've already considered this a spot that they could look for a free agent that comes available later down the road. You get a veteran that comes available, they may look to go after that piece. So if that's the case, this spot actually has openings. On top of that, we don't have an actual fullback. Now, that doesn't mean I think they're necessarily going to keep a guy to say he's our fullback only. But if you can play that role, there's flexibility there. And even John Morton's already talked about this. If you can line like a fullback, if you can play in those roles where you can play in the backfield, that tied along with also being able to play inline tight end, if you can put those two things together, you have a shot. You have a shot. I would say starting off with Luke Deal first. What I like about Luke Deal is he looks very natural as an inline tight end. He's built to play inline tight end. He did some slot work. He doesn't have much receiving production at all, but he was productive at Auburn. He was productive in the sense of as a blocker. He was a very impactful blocker in really every game that I've seen to this point against really good competition as well. You'll see the body type that's built for it. You'll see the strength. He's got a lot of hip power. He's got power in the core. He can sustain blocks on a line of scrimmage. There feels like there's a little bit more fluidity as you see like this, a split zone blocker, someone that can lead the way specifically, cut off angles, allow things to get up to the next level. As a pass catcher, again, it's not really much there that we noticed. He doesn't carry a lot of lateral quickness. I don't think he has a lot of short area twitch. I wonder a little bit about that as a lead blocker, but for me, it's more about his ability to position himself right now, breaks himself down in space, plays with some control as a blocker, and has the frame to get out in space and block just like this. Luke Deal, as a blocker, that's where he lives. His chance for us would be, to me, beating out first off a guy like Keaney Yeboah. Because Keaney Yeboah similarly is a blocker that doesn't have much receiving production, but can block on the move, can block in line. Stylistically, he's taps in first. He's also lined in the backfield, so he could show some flexibility there. That's the first step for him, is beating out not only the next tight end that we're going to talk about, but also a guy like Keaney Yeboah. Then it's a Shane Zylstra. And at that point, while I don't know that he's going to be able to outproduce Shane Zylstra as a receiving option, I would say that for him, he just has to make them lean towards we want this piece instead. And I think that starts with special teams. Whether that's as a coverage piece, which is probably less likely, more so as a lead blocker, that to me is where he could potentially find himself. If he can beat out a guy like Keaney Yeboah, and then on special teams, he adds a ton of value as a blocking piece on kick return. If he can add that value on punt return, if he can add some of that value, that gives him a shot. I think that would be his path to making the roster, making it as the bottom tight end. You probably won't see him a ton. He may have some inactives in there. That would be his best chance, is stand on special teams, be a guy that's really good on return teams, and then pass up a guy like Keaney Yeboah and our other UDFA signing and make them lean towards you because of that ability. And if that's the case, and for him, just show reliability as a pass catcher. I don't need anything dynamic here. Just show reliability, get the ball in your hands, maybe do a little after contact, that'd be cool, or after the catch. But honestly, just don't drop any passes. If you don't drop any passes, they know what they have in Luke Deal. So that would be his path to doing it. And the other tight end, which I want to give some attention to as well, is going to be Zach Horton, who is built a little bit differently out of Indiana here, who also played against some really good competition this past season and showed up pretty well for Indiana. He has a little bit more receiving production, but even for him in terms of receiving production, I don't know how consistent this is going to be as a pass catcher. It looks kind of awkward in terms of the technique that he plays with. But ultimately, he, to me, looks more like a fullback. Now, as you're going to see, he's lined out in the slot. They play him in line. They'll play him in the backfield. He looks like a guy that could translate much better to a fullback type of role. And to me, if he's going to make this team, that's what it would be. He's physical as heck. He throws his body into traffic. I think where he stands out better than Luke Deal is I would trust him more between the tackles. I would trust him in the lead block. I would trust him in short areas. I trust him to be able to work through and kind of fill lanes and open up openings for the running back. I would trust him more in those spots. There's physicality with the ball in his hands. He attacks the ball. He just has that attacking style. There's not as much consistency to me in terms of like how he enters into blocks. You're going to get some holding calls, it feels like, when you watch him. He's going to play a little bit too wide. I don't think there's as much consistency, but he does have the body type to play as a lead blocker. He's shown an ability to anchor with real bend in line, and I think this is a good example right here. Like, we've seen an ability to anchor at least. He doesn't look like your prototypical inline tight end in terms of like the length and the size that you would be after. So he has to fill into kind of like an H-back, a hybrid type of role. That's his path to making it happen. Being an attacking player with a pretty stout frame to his game as well that leads to an anchor, that leads to a lead blocking upside, and then again, just be a reliable pass catcher. He, to me, could actually add a little bit more value after the catch by his play style, but be reliable. Don't fumble the football. That's the big thing. If they hand it to you, don't fumble it, that kind of thing. And then be smart. We need him to be intelligent, right? We've seen him be very reactive in college to kind of moving pieces, but we need him to be very intelligent as a lead blocker to get to his spots, to hit his landmarks consistently. And if those two things, if that comes together, that gives him the shot to make the team. I think he's in a pretty tough spot here because I don't think either of these guys bring much receiving production, which is already makes it difficult. And for him, I don't think he has your typical frame that you would typically be after. So he's going to be in a difficult spot, I think. And I didn't think he looked as technically sound, but the toughness is noticeable, and the Lions love those guys. He similarly make your name on special teams. Now, I think that as much as he could do it on return teams as well, I think that's what Luke Deal's really built for. He could also potentially do it on coverage units. To me, that could be his separating factor. Not only be a really good piece as a lead blocker, be up there with Luke Deal, be someone that's capable of kind of leading the way on kick return because the Lions want to get that more involved this year. Be a guy that's also impactful on kickoff coverage, right? Be a guy that they trust is going to, two-gap when they're within 10 yards of the ball. Be a guy that can avoid blocks when you're further away from the football, right, and stay flat to your lanes. If he can do those things, I think he has the body type to be a coverage piece. I think he has the body type to be a coverage chief on punt team. He has the movement skills to do it, and he's got the aggressive demeanor to do it. He could be a guy that's like a multifaceted special teams key piece. You put him on every unit. You can put him on every single unit, and then he's got a very, think about Jason Kabinda, right? You could play him everywhere on special teams, and then on offense, you wouldn't see him a ton, but he could line in line. He would catch the football and kind of not do much after the catch, but he very least got to himself that, okay, he's reliable in flat routes, and then he would lead block and clear lanes, and he just didn't care. He's going to put his head down. He's going to run somebody over. He's just going to throw himself into the pile. That, to me, is the way that he plays the game. That gives him a chance. I mean, and if you can get to the point where that anchor that we've seen becomes somewhat reliable in terms of your past sets, you could also have a valuable spot in, depending on where our roster is at, depending on where our health is at, you could be just put in for spots to pass protect. Like, hey, we're just going max protect here. We just need an extra blocker, and you're just going to block. That's how he would separate himself, right? If we trust you more than Brock Wright one-on-one, we'll just leave you in there to, you'll come in for our running back, and you'll just sit next to Goff and lead block for us. We'll trust you more than Brock. He can do that. I don't think that's a path that can't be opened up. That can be opened up. I don't know that he's going to outshine a Shane Zylstra in the passing attack, but that is a path that's on the table. So it'd be very specific usage offensively, but it would be all-around special teams dynamic piece. That's how he gets onto the roster. And I think both of those guys, they have a chance because of where that unit's at. There's two guys that are locks to me and nothing else. That unit can definitely keep three. Now, we've kept two before, but you could keep three. They have a chance to do it just because of that reason alone, and they have very similar competition with guys like Keaney Yeboah, right? Now, Shane Zylstra is kind of the wild card in there because he's a little bit different stylistically, and if he brings too much to the passing attack, he's going to get the nod. Right now, I would guess that Shane Zylstra, if a guy does stay on the team as tight end 3, I would actually lean towards Shane Zylstra being that piece, but he's different than all of the other guys. So he brings something just a little bit different to the table. You're going to have to shine on special teams, I think, to separate yourself because the Lions value special teams to that extent. So Jacobe, Keaney, James, that's who we're going to go through today. Jacobe, Keaney, James, Keith Cooper Jr., Zach Corton, and Luke Deal. I'm going to say right now, I don't think any of these will actually make the team right now. I wouldn't bet on that. But in terms of most likely to least likely, if I had to do that, I would say most likely to make the team. I think I would lean one of the tight ends. I actually kind of like the idea of Zach Corton. Maybe I'd lean Zach Corton at 6'4", 250. I'd lean Zach Corton and put Luke Deal in there right with him. I'd probably lean Zach Corton just because of the way that he plays, and I think there could be a spot to be good on every special teams unit, and the Lions will value that. And then I would probably go Keith Cooper and then Jacobe, Keaney, James, which is a weird part because I love Jacobe's game, and he's been impactful all the time. Every game that I've watched him, and he's go against Toledo, against a big school. He's been good in every game that I've watched him. Smaller school, has been impactful. I just don't know where the path is to actually making the team. I think he's in a really tough spot, but he could do it. Just be dynamic and also be productive. Tie those two things together. It's not consistent, but the positive he has rolling for him is that you have two now backup quarterbacks that you can make the case are much more trustworthy than what we've had in the past. You're going to have Hendon Hooker throwing you the football in another, hopefully, full year where it looks even better than last year. And last year I felt that he opened some guys up, but this year you could add to that a ton, especially if you get a really good feel and you're finding windows. And then on top of it, you would have Kyle Allen, too, who's started games in the NFL. You have two guys that probably in a better spot in terms of as a whole who's going to be throwing you the football than what we've had consistently in the past between those two guys, because I don't think we're going to see a lot of Jared Goff. So because of that reason, you should get more opportunities than maybe you've had in the past. So for me, those are the first four that I wanted to start off with, and their chances of making the roster. It's just going to be difficult this season, no question. I'm going to leave it there. Shout out to everybody joining for this Friday show, and we're going to leave it there, man. I will see y'all again on Monday, same time, for another episode of Lions Daily. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but I know we got one player left to go through for our draft breakdowns, and that's Tyreek Williams. I'm fired up about that one. That's the last player we have. I don't think I missed one. I was checking back yesterday. So that will wrap that series up. And then, of course, I want to do the part 2 to this. So if you enjoyed this, let me know. We'll do a part 2 for UDFAs that we'll see if they'll make the team, but laying out the path of how it's going to happen. And then after that, we're kind of just wide open. Like, whatever we want to do, we'll do it. I'm going to leave it there, though, and I will see you on Monday over here on Bleacher Report. We're out. Chat over here on YouTube, man. Hey, shout out to everybody joining, man. That was we haven't done a live in a while, so I was like, let me do a live stream. Now the problem is I can't really stick around that long today. We actually have let me see. I'll meet y'all in Springfield. Yeah, I actually have we have a 7-on-7 today. We have our second 7-on-7 scrimmage today, so I have to go to that. So I can't really hang out, for like 30 minutes afterward. So I probably shouldn't have went live. Like I was like, maybe I shouldn't go live because of that reason, but we haven't done a live in a while, so I just wanted to see the chat. I want to see y'all in here, man. So I was like, we're just going to do it. But we will do another live stream soon. Maybe we'll do one this weekend. Maybe we'll just do a random live stream this weekend just to talk about something. Maybe I'll try to get some guests on. I talked to Easy wanted me to jump on today, but again, I have to dip out, so I can't do that. But we want to kind of ramp this thing up now. We're getting into July, and maybe get a guest on or something. I don't know. We got to figure something out, but we're getting close to like wrapping up the whole draft series, you could call it. And at that point, everything's kind of just open to whatever we want to do. So because of that, I think that this weekend, maybe we do some sort of live stream. We just kind of chat. If y'all got any ideas, man, feel free to send them over. Like literally, I'm open to anything. I know I say this. I'm honestly open to any idea. I see the Nite Mutai show. I'm open to it. Like it's possible we do it. I got to find a way to make it make sense. If it's a segment within more segments, it's probably easier. If it's the only segment, I don't think anybody's gonna watch it. Like I'm just being honest. Like if it's the only thing we talk about, I think people are not going to watch it. But if it's within other things, it's got a shot. That's the problem right now. It's hard to come up with good ideas. Like the Josh Pascal one, the audio is garbage. But man, I felt really good about that one. And that's Josh Pascal. I don't think Nite Mutai even has the poll that Josh Pascal does. So I don't know how well it's going to hit. You got a guest idea. Hit me. Okay, yeah, hit me up in Discord. Let me know. Or, yeah, hit me up in okay, yeah, I'll have to jump. I haven't been on Discord in a minute. Yeah, I'll jump on the Discord. I think I'm still logged in there. So that works for me. Receivers deep, but I see maybe one or two spots. Kelly, Patrick, wildcards. If Graham Glasgow is out for a few weeks, what's the lineup? If he's out for a few weeks, yeah, to me, Miles Frazier starts. Now, there's flexibility. Tristan Colon could start. They could do that. I would start Miles Frazier. They could like Colon earlier. KO'd still on the roster. I actually have Banks. He called me a couple days ago, and he asked me about KO'd a little bit. We haven't talked about KO'd much, but yeah, KO'd still here, so you have that. It's actually going to be more interesting who makes the team. I think between those three, you're in a pretty good spot. I would lean Frazier, personally, just because I want to see it. But if you said, like, okay, a guy that you would trust based on what you know of, I would probably lean Tristan Colon. I would just start Colon at guard. I would start Tate at center still, and then I would just roll with Mahogany. Like, assuming you have those guys available, I would just put Colon in at guard. But I would like to see Miles Frazier sooner than later. So I would like to see, like, if you didn't have Graham, I think that'd be a great opportunity to have Miles Frazier show what he's capable of, and then just see if he can be that guy going forward, and then maybe just never look back. And I think that could be the path doing it. Maybe he gets that opportunity and you never look back. You just move forward. He's your guy. Donnie's in the chat. I see you, Donnie. Donnie, it's good to see you, man. We're getting fired up for training camp, man. We got some cool plans for that. I got some cool plans for it this year. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to leave it there. Man, should we do it? Okay, last thing. I was thinking about doing a cut candidates video. I don't like doing those. I've done them in the past. I thought about it. I didn't love the idea because I don't love just doing a video and like, this guy could be cut. I don't know. I think we might do it. We might have to do it. We might have to. And I actually started putting a list. Like, Broderick was the first guy that came to mind, of course. Broderick will be on that list if he's there. Colby Sorrell, of course, would be on that list because we drafted him. They have to have some sort of something to their name. Like, it can't just be anybody because, like, okay. They would have to be a guy that we kind of know as a fan base. Like there's some investment maybe that we threw there. Those two would headline that. I don't know what the rest of the 5 would look like, but those two would probably headline that list. I just feel like if anybody's done those lists, they've probably already talked about that like a ton. That's part of the reason I don't like. If there's something interesting to it, I think I would have done it by now. I just don't find it overly interesting at this point because I think everybody understands like those guys are clearly on the bubble. There's a tough spot for them to get into the roster, but so I would have to come up. I would almost have to like get to a point. Like I tried to find names that like I thought about Pascal. Like if there's a name that's like a large name that maybe could be a surprise cut. If I can find enough of those, maybe it makes sense. Maybe that would make sense. Maybe that's what we can get to. Because those are the two that headline. Out of that, it feels like it's like Michael Neese. Like I talking about, yeah, Michael Neese could be cut. I guess maybe I don't know. Tom Kennedy, like that's not exciting. You don't know nobody wants to talk Tom Kennedy getting cut. But maybe, I don't know. If I can think of a good 5, maybe there's someone I'm missing. If y'all are thinking of someone I'm missing that's like, but this guy could really be cut and here's why, maybe we'll put that together. And again, that would probably be better, not as its own show, maybe if it was its own show, but was part of a larger show. So the Nitain Mutai video and then cut candidates. I don't know. Something like that. Did we already do a cut candidates video like a week ago? Cut candidates. I thought I already did it. No, maybe I didn't do that. I was just thinking about it. I think I was just thinking about it. I didn't actually do it. All right, maybe it'll happen. I don't know. It doesn't excite, man. Like I don't know. I feel like I'm in such a positive energy right now where I'm struggling to bring myself to do that. Like everything's been flowing. You know what I mean? Everything's been good. Dan Campbell like was ranked 9th. I wanted to go into that. I was like thinking about I don't want to hate on it. He's in the top 10. I would like to see him higher though, but I don't know. Like I'm all right. They put him in there. It's like whatever. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to leave it there, though. I appreciate y'all joining. And I will see you guys probably this weekend. We'll do some sort of live stream or something. If something happens, we'll do that, too. But, yeah, if you have ideas, man, let me know. X, Instagram, those are 2 easy ways to let me know. I guess if you're in the Discord, go for that, too. That works. You'll be there a few days at a training camp. You got to let me know what days, Donnie. Let's see. Hopefully I can line those up. I guess it just depends on what tickets I get. But, hopefully at least one of those days. I can focus on making that happen. Okay. Yeah, we're going to get out of here, though. I'll see y'all soon, man. Have a great night. Enjoy your weekend. And we'll be back soon. I'm out.